Well, we are going to have a great show today. We are here with the mobsters. No, not really. No, it's okay. I didn't say nothing bad. Don't get upset. Mo, you got to be careful what you say here, huh, Bob?
Yeah, you bet.
All right, okay. We are here with an extremely special guest that I've been so fortunate to have on before, but this guy just keeps growing. He keeps expounding on everything, and now he's expanding his career, and he's got all kinds of things being done. I guess if you actually do enough and you last long enough, everyone has nothing else to talk about, but the guy that lasts long enough and becomes the big hero, right?
The only one left.
This is a book, actually, all about him, and right now they're in the middle of doing a off-Broadway and on-Broadway major one-man show about Bernie. It hasn't even been named yet, has it?
No, not yet. They're looking for a director.
Okay, but you got a couple of great producers already doing that for you right now. You got producers, you got Dan Gordon and also Jay Gutterman, and those are famous guys. Dan Gordon's done 15 movies.
15 movies.
Is that right? And Jay Gutterman, he's a Tony Award winner and all these things. These guys got acclimates and they're going like crazy. So who is, and today, because it's been a while since he's been on, and now they're getting ready to do the movie about him after they do the 2 Broadway shows, on Broadway and off Broadway, and also they're doing a special thing on probably a 6-part TV series.
Exactly.
About this guy's life. Because even though he got close to the fire, and even though he was there, he stayed a good guy. So everybody still wants him around, right?
Right.
Okay.
So far.
Yeah, that's right. If you're with him, don't start your car. It's a little thing I'm just sharing with you. Okay. So anyway, he has been a friend of mine. He's been a friend of yours, Bob. And he goes back and just has lots of 90% of the girls in town only know him. They don't know me and you.
They haven't got a clue.
No, but they know who he is.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's okay. So, you don't deny that, right?
No, not for a
They
moment.
know that big black Mercedes that drives down the highway.
That's him and his girls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And different girls. Now, when they get to 45, he trades them off because then they become too old for him.
Well, he can get about 20 girls in that Mercedes.
It's a big Mercedes.
Yeah.
It's big. It's big.
Yeah, they get squashed in there a little bit, but
Yeah.
it's okay. I want to say something, but we're going to show a video that tells about him. The video will tell us quite a bit, won't it?
Quite a bit.
So right now, we're going to do a video that was prepared by the Mob Museum downtown, which you got to see. The Mob Museum is fantastic. He's a celebrity in the Mob Museum.
Yes.
That's right. So the fact is that they celebrate him as a major person because he's somebody that you can actually look at and talk to. Most mobsters you don't think you can talk to, right?
No, they're all dead.
They're all dead.
They're all dead. Yeah. So, but people could go to the graveyard because they're dying to see him.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
can do that.
All right. So the fact is, he is a celebrity amongst celebrities, and he was at a time when this town was tough and unbelievable, and he saw and experienced and lived through unbelievable things, didn't he?
Yes.
Amazing. You want to get this book when you can. Where's this book? Where can they get this book?
At the Mob Museum and the Gambler's Bookstore on Main Street.
Gambler's Bookstore?
Yeah.
On Main Street, and also the Mob Museum. You can get this, okay? And any of you that are spending time in jail now, I think it's in the local jail bookstore.
It could be.
Could be, yeah, because it tells you how to get out. No. Okay, so right now we're going to play a special film that tells about Bernie and his life and what's going on, and some of it you'll have a better understanding, and then we'll talk about it.
Absolutely.
Nobody knows more about you and about this book and what you experienced than you do.
Nobody.
You talk unbelievable about it, so I'm going to shut my mouth, and we're going to watch this video right now, prepared by the Mob Museum in relationship to their unbelievable superstar, Bernie Sindler. Here we go.
You do what you want to do. So, this to me is evident. The owner of the house comes out, wonderful guy, big guy, strong, named Jack Cooper. He had tennis clothes on. Jack Cooper, the world doesn't know it, but I'm telling you a fact now, and not two people on earth know. Jack Cooper was Myra Lansky's alter ego. Cooper signed everything Everything was in Cooper's name. Meyer signed nothing. And the reason I know this is because I have actual documents I'll tell you later about where they made a deal with me. That's when I got a hold of money, but I'll tell you. I mean, these guys loved me. They didn't do nothing for me. Take care of me. They took good care of me. And they wouldn't give me nothing until I bought it. But anyway.
So you're staying at Jack Cooper's house?
Yeah. And the next thing you know, Meyer says, come on, we're going to go get something to eat. Where are they going to go? Wolfie's. Famous restaurant, Wolfie's restaurant on Collins Avenue. And then remember now, this is in the winter time. And it looks like, I think all the gangsters moved to Florida for the winter. No doubt in my mind about it. They're all there. They're smart. So we go to Wolfie's, and he's introducing me to guys. I'm not going to repeat the names because I have no idea who they are. But they're friendly, I'm admired, so I don't know this, but I'm thinking to myself, God damn, boy, they're really treating me nice. And he said, do a card trick. So I start doing card tricks. Next thing I know, they give me $5, $4, $8. I'm making a little show card tricks. And I think it's pretty, thank them all. That night we go to another famous restaurant called Park Avenue, which Winky Grover, who became a big man here at Caesar at one time. To this moment, I don't really know the truth. I don't want to think anything, but if you read these literature, it makes one wonder. Anyway, yeah, she's got the most beautiful apartment in Beverly Hills. She tells me, come on to Beverly Hills to see her. I do it. We are married in February of '64. And I'm going to tell you, life, there's no way life could be better. I'm living in a penthouse, and I'm playing at the Friars Club, gin rummy every day. We're whining and dining at the best place, and we had a French maid, a cook, and a maid. It was unbelievable. So Meyer now comes to me, and he says, we're going to build on Camden and Wilshire, we're going to build a 9-story hotel. And we want you to kind of front it for us. You need $100,000. In those days, $100,000 was pretty good money, 63, 4. I agree. So I make a deal. Now, who is the lawyer handling all of this for Meyer Landscape? First of all, Jack Cooper is going to, everything is going to be through him. Anybody know who Burton Cohn is?
Yeah.
Yeah. He's the most prolific lawyer person. He's an icon in Vegas. Burton was my friend. Burton was in Los Angeles working at the International Airport Hotel. He was the president of the company. And I know Burton. And I give him the $100,000. I'm skipping that. With a guarantee from Jack Cooper, and I had the original documents. I think I showed them to you. And from Meyer, well, I was from Jack, but it was really Meyer.
So Bernie, I know if you had your druthers, you'd tell the whole story every month because it's all interesting. I think what we ought to do though is jump around a little bit.
Okay.
The stories, kind of hit on some key points.
Okay.
And then that way we'll cover more ground. So you had money, so now you're on a different level in Las Vegas. And instead of, I mean, you might still be working as a dealer or a host or something like that, but now you're at a different level. And you mentioned the Friars Club earlier. I want to talk about the Friars Club, and you were playing gin rummy there, but there was something that went on in the 60s there that just another near miss.
Another near miss. At the Friars Club in the 60s, Maury Friedman. I don't know if you know these names. I seldom spit these names out, but most people don't know them. One of the most notorious characters that ever hit Las Vegas. Devised a scheme they put an eye in the sky, and they had a way to communicate with the player. And they were cheating. They were cheating.
And they were cheating celebrities, right?
Big deal. They had, let me see.
The Marx Brothers and Marx
Yeah,
Brothers.
yeah. Give me a minute. I'll read you some of these names if I can find them.
This is about
That
1967.
was 1960.
It started from 65, yeah. You think of how cold-blooded that is.
Oh, here we go.
You know, here you are at the Friars Club with
It
all
was
your
Tony
buddies.
Martin, Zeppo Marx, Harry Carl, who was married to Debbie Reynolds. He had all the shoe stores. He was very wealthy when he started. He went bankrupt. And this was the kind of people they were attracting. And he had, on his side were the cheaters. There was, who was it? Al Snyder, George Seach was the technician who set it all up. And it was just by accident the FBI found out about it. But what happened was, Johnny Roselli was involved, and they all had a piece in the game, and they made a lot of money. I called Meyer. When they came to me, I was very, very friendly with Maury Friedman, the ringleader, and he knew my abilities, so to speak. And he came to me, wanted me to become part of the team. And I'm thinking about this. I was thinking to myself, I don't really need this money. And I said, I called Meyer Lansky. And I tell him what's going on. He says, I know about it. He said, now listen to me and listen good. He says, you keep as far away from this as you possibly can. I don't want to hear you involved in this. He said, because sooner or later, somebody's going to talk and they're going to get caught. There's too many people involved that know the secret. But I had to do something. And this is what I did. So they asked me, and I got away with this for about 5 years. And the years went by when I went up, the MGM, it turned out big time. There's something happened to the MGM that they were concerned about, which I never could figure it out. But I think, I worked 13 years for Kerkorian at the MGM. I'm kind of skipping around here. But I had a life that nobody ever dreamed. When I worked for Kerkorian, I'm a jumperman, I got to tell you this part. When I worked for Kerkorian, I had full power of the pen, meaning I didn't have to ask anybody anything when I comped. And I comped. I comped a lot. But I was the biggest producer. I think I was the biggest producer, and I'll tell you why in a moment, that Vegas ever had in the history of Vegas, one person. Every Mexican that came into Vegas in those years, Mexico was hot. Every Mexican customer, every Canadian had to come through my office. I approved credit. I approved at least a couple, in my years, 13 years, a couple $100 million in credit. For which I was blessed. Nobody ever came near me. Al Benedict, Bernie Rothkopf, all the bosses left me alone. I had like a dynasty there. I could do anything. And also, anywhere I went, if I go to New York, the Plaza, 2-bedroom suite, Century Plaza, carte blanche. Now, why was I getting all of this? Because the owners of these places were calling me, and I used the word reciprocity. They gave me, I gave them, and I lived like a king. Nobody. 13 years I ate every night of my life in the gourmet restaurants. It was a wonderful existence. I took one look at this and I said to myself, this is not for me. And what I did, I'll never forget it. I was living at the Riviera, and I didn't tell anybody. I didn't tell Meyer anybody. I figured I got a chance to get to that airport, and I did. I just left, got on that plane, came back to Miami, and I'm glad I was. I did.
Where you were staying was the Hotel Riviera, and that was Lansky's place.
That was Lansky's place.
And he invested about $20 million in that place, and he lost it
At
all.
least. Everybody thinks that Meyer died with money. I'm telling you, all that money is in the Riviera Hotel.
Yeah.
He died maybe a couple $100,000, but he didn't die with money, I can tell you that. If he did, somebody's digging it up someplace.
One other question back here.
Johnny Roselli's name has been tied very closely to the Kennedy assassination. Maybe you know something about it.
Did you?
Roselli, okay. Johnny was a good friend of mine. I'm going to tell you what I believe happened. I believe that Bobby Kennedy, at that time, I was his brother, who was the Attorney General or something, he was killing gaming in America. He was really ferociously going after gaming. He wanted to eliminate gaming in America. And the guys came to Kennedy, the president, and they were complaining about it. He wouldn't do anything about it. He couldn't. He just wouldn't do anything about it. And I believe that they killed Robert Kennedy to send a message. Well, they sent a hell of a message, because I don't know if any people have ever been down to Texas where the shooting took place. But that shot that Oswald made, to me, is impossible. You had to see it. He had a second to shoot between a couple of trees. He did it. It happened. But I really believe that they killed Kennedy to send a message to Bobby. And as you know, Bobby got killed a short time later. They got rid of him too. But that was it. There's plenty of stories around there, books and books written on the mob's association with Castro. How they tried to kill, what they did, they tried to kill him a few times by poisoning, but somehow or other it didn't work too well, and he survived. Now what happened in Cuba, believe it or not, they kept the casinos open. Castro kept them open for a while. Meyer stayed there, he didn't leave. He tried to save what he had, but it didn't work.
One note on Roselli, whether or not he was involved in the Kennedy assassination, in my view, there's not a lot of hard evidence in that area. However, there's a tremendous amount of evidence, and nobody really disputes that he was involved with attempting to assassinate Castro, that he was brought in by the CIA, and also Bob Mayhew, who was Howard Hughes' right-hand man here in Vegas in the 60s. Those guys were brought in to work with the CIA to try to figure out how to assassinate Castro. They obviously were not successful, but they tried for a long time, several years, to make that happen. And Roselli talked about that later to Senate committees in the 70s. So that definitely happened.
Well, now you know quite a bit about Bernie Sindler. Okay, this is pretty awesome what goes on. There was one part in there, Bernie, we'd like you to retell it to us a little bit about that guy, Sean Stanek, that actually, 10 years old, he got actually bit by a Black Panther in the Siegfried and Roy show?
Yes. In case you're a little confused, whoever released, that was excerpts from an hour and a half show. So they broke it down. I didn't realize they were doing it. So Sean Stanek was in the very last segment with his back to the audience. So in case you wonder who Sean was, he was Sean. What happened to Stanek? They used to work, there was a group called the Seven Alexanders, and they appeared in the Siegfried and Roy show at the MGM. This is 1976. Sean at that time was 10 years old, very strong kid. He'd been rehearsing with the group. The Seven Alexanders were his family, and he was in the hierarchy. He was the kid on top of everybody else. So when he dismounted in preparation for Siegfried and Roy to come on, the handler who was holding the leopard, it was a leopard or panther? I can't
Yeah,
remember.
you said Black Panther.
Holding the panther, couldn't restrain him, and the panther got loose and attacked the kid. Now, fortunately, the panther didn't have any claws, so he couldn't get a good grip on him, but he got his mouth around the kid's throat.
But he did have teeth in his mouth,
He
right?
had teeth.
Oh,
He had teeth.
not good.
The mother went berserk, who was in the act
The mother of the child.
of the child. She started beating him with her hands, trying to pull the panther off. I'm not so sure it was a panther or a leopard, but I can't remember. It's okay. The leopard or the panther would not let loose. Siegfried, who came in, sees what's going on. He said a couple of words in German to the panther, and the panther relaxed his grip immediately, like nothing happened. And he came over to Roy, and that was the end of that. The kid spent 3 months in the hospital, damn near died from the leopard bites, but he survived it, and he became, to this day, he's a good friend of mine, and I see him quite often.
Oh, that's awesome.
So,
You still see him quite often.
Yeah, that's his story. In fact, I just talked to him yesterday. His mother had a birthday.
Unbelievable.
Yes.
You have witnessed and been through so many things. It's crazy, you know. And when you read the forward of your book or any of these things, it's just unbelievable what's in here. What would you like from what we just saw on TV? And there's quite a bit in here. I have read your book, so I can go into some things here. But what would you like? You know everything. Your dates are good. Your everything. That you know how to expound on what really happened. What's some of the most exciting things, since they're doing now a Broadway play about you and a movie and a 6-part TV series and all this kind of stuff? What would you kind of like to say to a preview audience that's going to be watching all this stuff?
Well, that's a very difficult question, actually. I can tell you, I wish I had my moderator here, because he knew how to ask me good questions. But anyway, I think I'll tell you the story about Steve Wynn.
Steve Wynn?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
Why not?
what's the story about Steve Wynn? I want to make sure this is real
It's quite
close.
a story.
Okay.
We were opening the Frontier Hotel. Steve Wynn was a partner in the hotel with me and other assorted characters, especially people out of Detroit were all, they were mob associated real bad. So and Steve was a very gregarious kid. So this particular Sunday, the top dog is a guy named Maury Friedman. See, I mention these names, they don't mean nothing to nobody except Steve Wynn. So Maury, Steve Wynn, they're going to go on a boat. They're renting the boat from Caesar's Galley. They had a big yacht sitting on Lake Mead at that time. And we knew them well. A guy named was Chandler, who was Dan Chandler, who was the captain of the boat. On the boat was going to be four girls. They were all hookers, beautiful girls. among which one was named Nancy Matola. They called me, they want me to go, but I didn't like the looks of this thing, and it wasn't for me.
Yeah, you didn't want to get hooked.
No, I didn't want to get hooked, is right. So, the other guy on the boat was Nicky Devine, who owned New York Meats. At that time, if you bought any meat in these hotels, you bought it from Nicky Devine, New York Meats. That's where you bought your meat. Now, he was a big, strong guy, terrible drinker. When he got drunk, he was very dangerous.
So you didn't want to be on a boat with that guy?
I didn't want to be on. I didn't
Absolutely not.
I didn't want to be among the scene. So fortunately for me, I declined, and I was just married, so that was another problem. That wasn't a problem. I just wasn't going to do it. It wasn't my kind of thing.
Let's face it, you couldn't get permission from your bride.
No permission.
Okay.
So this fateful Sunday, the boat goes into the lake. It takes off from the dock and starts cruising around the lake. And they are apparently, from what I gathered and found out, they're having a real strong time. Nancy Matola. It was late in the afternoon. According to Steve Wynn, he was taking a nap. I don't believe him, but it's okay. Steve was a good friend of mine, and to this very day, he's a good friend of mine.
Good.
So, the two really tough guys were Maury Friedman and Nicky Devine. His name was Irving, but they called him Nicky. Nancy Matola is dancing around the top of the deck naked. Decides to go dipping. She jumps off the back of the boat. At that precise moment, Chandler, the captain of the boat, for whatever reason, puts the boat in reverse. The girl is by the propeller, chops her up, destroys her, kills her.
Oh my gosh. Unbelievable.
It's unbelievable as right as unbelievable.
He had no idea she was in the water, huh?
According to him, he didn't know. According to him, nobody saw her jump off the back of the boat. As Nicky said to me, he used some bad language, and that broad had to pick that particular, so he used some terrible words, jump off the boat. And he called her every name in the book. She's dead, and he's calling her names.
Wow.
So, police come, big investigation, and it was in the paper. I got the clipping, actually. But in 2 days, you never heard another word about it. They hushed it up. They got rid of it. I think that Ralph Lamb, we paid him, or something happened with Ralph, and we never heard no more about it. But Steve Wynn, from then on, you know how he went to great heights, but he was on that boat.
That's amazing
Yeah.
that those kind of stories happen. All kinds of stories. It says in here, every story you could imagine is in here.
It's in the
You
book.
know, it's in the book.
Yeah.
You don't want to miss this book. You want to go get this book. And again, it's the Bernie Sindler story, My Life with Meyer Lansky.
It's the best book you'll ever read.
The what book?
The best book.
The best book.
Yeah.
Well,
You wouldn't know
listen.
about Vegas.
Every single second is a story about something
Yeah.
that goes on here. Untold stories of murder, mayhem, and mafia in Las Vegas. And you're here to tell about it.
Yeah.
Did you ever think that maybe you might be shoved off the back of the boat?
Yep.
That's why you never took your clothes off and danced naked. That wouldn't have been good.
I had a few occasions where I had some problems. I don't want to go into big details with Jay Sarno, Circus. But I had been threatened. But I always knew that I had bigger dives than they had.
So somehow you got through it.
Yeah, I knew all I could do is make one call to Meyer, and Nobody's going to do anything without Meyer's approval. I can promise you that.
Look at some of these titles in this book. I want to share this with them.
Sure.
Don't you think that's great? In the back here, it says some wild things, too. I'm going to read a little bit of it here
read
for
it.
you.
Go ahead.
Okay, it says, behind the scenes of the mob in Las Vegas, Bernie Sendler, a protege of Meyer Lansky, who was considered his surrogate father.
That's
Is that
true.
right?
That's
That's
true.
because you met, is that when you met him on the train?
Met him on the train.
Yeah. You met him on the train, and somehow he kind of adopted you right there, didn't he?
Yeah.
You got adopted by the mob, huh? Okay. Was associated with notorious mob and outfit members as a partner or employee in their Las Vegas operations and as a close friend and associate. But evidently you didn't get caught with a gun in your hand.
No. But what happened really was, there were very few people can make this statement. Howard Hughes is one of them. I'm not going to tell myself that Howard Hughes, but facts are facts. I'm one of the very rare people that ever owned 3 licenses on the Strip.
Are you talking about Howard Hughes?
No, him.
No, me.
You.
Me. Howard Hughes had 6. I had 3.
Amazing.
There were very few that ever had 3.
Wait, were you a friend of Howard's Hughes also?
No. Howard Hughes was a non-entity. Bob Mayhew ran the whole organization. And they paid a friend of mine, every hotel that they bought, they paid Johnny Roselli $250,000 finder's fee, 6 times.
That's amazing.
Yeah, Mayhew and
Bob Mayhew.
Bob Mayhew. You've heard of Bob Mayhew?
Yes, I have.
He was the top dog.
Yeah.
But he was a very good friend of mine. In fact, actually, I formed a public company, and he was on my. I've got the documents. Everything I tell you is documented. I'm not making this stuff up.
Of course not.
I can prove every single word I say.
You even got canceled checks from a
I
couple
got
of hotels at
canceled
Balt.
checks.
Yeah, the
He's
hotels
right.
at Balt. Yeah.
$100,000 worth of canceled checks.
Maybe it's because you knew all the right people and you were friends with the right people.
I knew the people I had to know to make it right. That's all I cared about.
Hey, Bernie, tell them about what really interests me the most is about Cuba when you barely got out of there. with
Oh,
your
yeah.
life. This huge story.
Meyer is 1980.
This is Meyer Lansky.
Meyer Lansky. Meyer controlled everything in Cuba. Every place. He controlled it all. His partner was Batista, who was a pretty good partner. So, it was February, about the 20th of 1958.
Got a memory.
Castro is in the hills. He's hiding there, making a lot of trouble. But they think Castro is a nothing guy. They never believed him Castro could take over. Meyer calls me, says to me, why don't you come on down and work here for a couple of weeks? Or stay as long as you want. So it sounded good. I had nothing to do at that time, so I said, okay. So I'm down in Miami. I fly over to Cuba, and I go to work at the Tropicana, dealing dice, craps.
How old were you then?
Well, 1950, I was 25.
So you left
I
Vegas
was
for a little
30
bit.
About 33.
Yeah. You left Vegas for a little bit and took a trip to Cuba.
Cuba, yeah. I was in Vegas, and I was like freelancing. I was lucky. I never had to worry about a job. If I wanted a job, I called Meyer, he called somebody, and I go to work. I worked in the Sands twice. I worked at the Flamingo 3 different times.
MGM.
MGM. I worked in Tropicana running the Baccarat game. Actually, it was called the Chemenda Fair at the time. I dealt to Elizabeth Taylor. She was beautiful. Anyway.
His mind is wandering now.
I'm
He said
wandering.
Elizabeth Taylor, he's gone.
They'll go back to Vegas.
Did you ever meet
Cuba.
Marilyn Monroe?
Yeah, I did.
You met both of them.
Yeah.
Well, do
At
you
the
prefer
Sands.
blondes or brunettes?
All of them.
All of them.
All of them. From the
All
neck
of
down.
I was married 8 times. Give me a break.
Married 8 times and you're still alive. You thought mobsters were bad. Then you got married and found out what bad was.
I love beautiful women.
I do too. I love my beautiful wife, Alex.
He's looking for number 9, by the way.
Okay. Are you looking for number 9?
Nah,
Yeah, okay.
but I don't avoid the subject. You know, I got to be honest with you. If somebody came along that
And you liked it?
fit the bill, I'd do it again. Well, why not? What's the difference? What's the difference in me?
Back to Cuba.
So back to Cuba.
Yeah.
So now comes, I'm working the trap. They're so busy you can't believe it. In comes, it's New Year's Eve, December 31st, 1958. And in comes Castro with his band.
And you were over there and you saw him?
Yeah, well, I didn't see Castro, but I saw the people that
Yeah.
rioted in the streets.
Right.
It was murder. It was chaos in there. So I'm thinking to myself, and they're coming into the hotels. They're marching into the hotels. It's a very scary situation. And I'm thinking to myself, this is not good. So I determined right then and there, I don't call nobody. I don't say nothing to nobody, not to mire to nobody. I get out there, I get in the cab. There were some cabs running, and I go to the airport. Planes were flying. I get on the airport about 4 or 5 in the morning, I forget. And I go back to Miami. And Meyer stayed there for about almost a year. Now, why did he stay there? People don't know this part. Meyer always thought that he could make a deal with Castro, but he couldn't. Castro, for whatever reason, he was going to have Castro replace Batista, make all the money he can carry, but Castro, he was an idealist. He really wanted a revolution. He thought that poor people, there shouldn't be any rich people, only poor people, other than his people. And don't worry, he took plenty good care of his people. So what he did, all the generals got together. Castro, he ruled Cuba, but there was about 7 generals that controlled Cuba, because they had control of the army. And Castro, naturally, was the leader, and everybody was cutting up the money, and plenty of it. They all got rich. Who knows what they got overseas, hidden, in different foreign countries, but they all got rich. And the generals were the ones that kept control of the army. Without the generals, you couldn't do nothing. So I escaped when I feel like I could have gotten shot. Anything could have happened. You're running around, people shooting off guns in the street. Who knows what could happen?
That's right.
They may not like the way you look, and somebody might just shoot you. So that was my experience with that, and one was enough, believe me.
I want to tell you, I was back in, it was about 1979 probably, and before I opened Legends in Concert here, I got a call from a hotel in Atlantic City, and they wanted the show Tropicana from Cuba.
Okay.
Now, that ended up coming here. It was at the Stardust, I think, for a while.
Is that right? It was a fabulous show.
So they said, you got to go see that show, and how could you do it? So I found out I couldn't go to Cuba. You wouldn't do it. So they had...
I see. I understand what you're saying.
So they had some friends of mine that put me on. I actually got my hair cut back a little bit and so forth, put some clothes on, and I went on as a luggage carrier on one of the planes, and I snuck into Cuba.
They had the most magnificent showroom in the world.
Yeah, and so I went over.
Huge.
I went over there to Cuba.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And they got me through the red tape, get through the, got myself in there because I went with all the employees, and they somehow snuck me in there, and they had a place for me to stay, and they put me in the back of a car, and so I went over there, and then they had me watch the show, Tropicana.
Yeah,
actually saw it 3 times to make sure I know what it was.
Those dancers were
Yeah.
really incredible.
Yeah, and it was an unbelievable show.
Yeah, it was unbelievable.
But it was too
I-
difficult to get it out of there to bring it here. I was there 3 days, and luckily I got out of there live, you know,
Yeah.
because I wasn't supposed to be there.
You know, you
Right.
can laugh all you want, but weird things happen to people when they go to foreign countries.
Well, believe it, I was glad to get out of there. But I went to Cuba, experienced the show, and then later the show did come over here for a while to I think it was the Stardust where it played for a while.
I'm not quite sure.
But
It
anyway,
probably was
so
the
that was my little sneak. So I wish you had been there when I was there. We could have gone out and got a
Yeah.
hamburger. But anyway, so I also snuck into Cuba.
How long did you stay there?
3.5 days.
They had an act in Cuba, a
Yeah.
guy called Superman.
Yeah,
this is
I'm
a
telling you.
terrible. This is a terrible story, but I'm going to tell it anyway.
Okay, tell it. We want to hear it.
This guy, he did a show. Now, let
In
me-
what city?
In Havana.
In Cuba. Okay.
Now, Superman was endowed beyond your figure 14 inches. Think
14.
about it.
You mean his
Yeah.
arm?
Yeah.
Yeah, the middle arm.
Right.
The middle arm. Okay.
I don't know how he did it, but 4 times a day he did it. You paid to go in, and you watch. They would. It was like a scene where they're dragging the girl in chains, and they're going to tie her up to this big pole, and they do that.
You mean the 14-inch pole?
No, to a pole in the middle of the room,
Okay.
and in comes Superman with his robe on. It had more women at the show than it had men. When he takes off that robe, I got to tell you something. It was frightening. He must have been sick or something to have that size.
So during the daytime, he hung out with the elephants.
He could raise an erection.
That's
So
funny.
it was a show? Was
It
it
was
a
a
show?
show. Yeah, you paid. Superman.
Yeah.
Everybody went to see it. In fact, they talked about it in the movie The Godfather. They did mention Superman. You may not recall the scene where the brother is telling another guy about Superman, but he didn't go into detail what Superman was. But this is what they were talking about. But Cuba's great.
So you saw that show, right?
Oh, I saw it.
Yeah, you saw the show. Okay, well, I didn't get to see that show.
Me either.
No. Okay. So maybe I'll audition for that.
You could.
Yeah. I'm glad you're telling everybody.
Look, please, let's keep it clean.
So anyway, that was one of your more exciting things, was to go to Cuba
Well,
and
no, I
experience Cuba.
didn't say it was one of my exciting things. It was an interesting thing.
Well, we want to hear one of your exciting things.
Well, what's exciting? Exciting was I escaped.
The fact that you lived through Las Vegas in the mob days,
Yeah.
the fact that you wrote this book, the fact that you've been married 8 times and you're looking for the 9th one, the fact that you actually are an undercover Superman, and we've heard about it. We know it's all over the street. Okay, so we know all about that. And the fact is that if any of you people want to know, and we're not closing yet, if you can think of one more good story to tell us, we still have a little over 2 minutes. Do you have
Okay.
something you want to share with us?
Yeah, I'll tell you about the FBI.
Okay.
Okay. Here's what happened. When we opened the Frontier Hotel, the Detroit mob, Tony Zarelli and Mike Polizzi and et al. Were putting up all the money, a great portion of the money to open the hotel and casino, but they were persona non grata. So they had surrogate stockholders owning all their shares. Someone in our organization, the Frontier, sent out a memo after we're open, stating that they're coming, Zarelli and Polizzi are coming, and give them VIP treatment. The FBI got a hold of the note, and next thing you know, did an investigation. They call me, the FBI calls me down to Los Angeles, and they're interrogating, what do I know about these people? I knew everything about them. I say I know nothing about them. Now, I was immune. Why was I immune from, I had 3 serious investigations. Serious. I always put up my own money, so they could never say that I was holding for somebody else. Of course, I could legitimately, I had a letter from the Bank of America. If you saw the letter, which I have at home, you think I was God with the Bank of America. I would take care of them, do this, do that. Whatever he wants, give it to him. So the FBI calls me. I'm down in Los Angeles, and they're interrogating me. And I'm denying everything. I don't know nothing. I'm just a stockholder. I got my money up. But they knew, with my connections, that I knew these guys well. They had me on tape. They say to me, look, if we don't want you to testify for us, but we also don't want you to testify for them. Well, I couldn't hear anything better.
So you're caught in the middle.
No, I'm not caught in it. I'm perfect because I can't testify for them.
Oh, you can't do either one.
I can't testify for them.
All right.
So I agree, and I don't. They all 5 years. They all got 5 years in jail for conspiracy.
And you got off because you couldn't testify for anybody.
Yeah.
Well, that's unbelievable.
Wait a minute. There's an end to this story. Better than you heard.
Gets better.
What's the end of the story?
20 years go by.
Got to keep this close.
20 years go by, and I'm working at the Desert Inn as a casino host and executive. My friend Burton Cohn, who was the president and chief operator, gave me a job. So it was a cushy thing. Anyway, it's this evening, Freddie Domaney, I don't know if these names mean anything to you, but these are big names I'm giving you, who owns the Tropicana Hotel, comes to see me, and he says there's a guy wants to say hello to you. Okay? He's sitting down there across from the baccarat by the slot machines. Okay, so I said, okay, yeah, I'll go say hello to him. If Freddie asks me, I'll do it. So I walk down there. As I'm walking down, I see this big burly guy, and I recognize him. I say, oh, Christ. I'm thinking to myself, that's Tony Zarelli. I said, what the hell's he doing here? He's not even allowed in the city. So anyway, I go over to him. We do the usual hugs. He almost kills me. He's a big guy, and he's squeezing me to death. He's got tears in his eyes. I said, Tony, what are you doing here? It's good to see you. You know, I'd use all. She said, I'm really happy to see you. So he says to me, I had to come and say hello to you. And here's why. Remember when the testimony, when we all went to jail, went to prison for 5 years? He says to me, you're the only guy, the only stand-up guy in the group that didn't testify against him. He never knew that I couldn't testify.
Oh, so you got a major credit.
And he says to me, remember this very carefully. He says, if there's anything I can ever do for you again, or anything, you call me. I had his number in Detroit.
It's a big deal.
That was a big deal.
Yeah. And we hug again, and by this time I got tears in my eyes. And he goes his way, I go my way. I never saw him again. He finally died about a year ago.
That's what I call a story that's unbelievable. Ladies and gentlemen,
Go ahead.
let's tell these people, Bernie Sindler, you want to get that book, you want to go see the Mob Museum, or you want to go see the gambling store downtown, right? Down Fremont Street area. My Life with Meyer Lansky and Bugsy Siegel and the Mob. The untold stories, the unbelievable things that are in here are beyond belief. And this man is a famous person here in Las Vegas that helped make Vegas what it is. Talks about the love and lust in Vegas, the conspiracies, the intrigue, the pressures, the Lansky legacy, the Fed strike again, the grandest stage ever built. Go see the film when it comes out. Go see the Broadway shows on off-Broadway and also on Broadway, and watch this 6-episode TV show, all coming out of this famous person, that man right there, Bernie Sindler. He's as pretty today as he was then. See ya. Thank you.